Hi everyone. I hope that you're all doing well. I hope that you're all staying healthy. This video is a book review about a book that I recently purchased on Thrift Books, and it arrived. I just got it weeks later because I was working too much. And the title of this book is Native Plants, Native Healing, the Traditional Muskogee Way, and it was written by Tis Mao Crow. Now, I do apologize if I mispronounce the name of the author or the name of the tribe. I don't know if it's Muskogee or Muskogee or Muskogee, I don't know. So I sincerely apologize if I'm saying the name incorrectly. Now, I decided to get this book because I already have a vast herb collection or books on herbalism, and I'm trying to increase my books about herbs used by Indigenous Americans. I have traditional Chinese medical herb books. I have a nice amount of those. I have books on Ayurvedic medicine. I still need to increase my books on African herbalism. I only have maybe 2 of them. But as far as like Indigenous American herbalism, that's something that's currently fascinating me right now because I'm in North America. I want to see what plants are around me or even in my state. And this book, even though it was only 140 something pages, it packed a lot of information. With herb books, it doesn't really matter if it's very lengthy or if it's very brief. I usually find something significant in almost any book on herbalism that I read, and this is no different. Now, before I tell you about the author and also go into my book review, I wanted to share with you some of the books that I just got recently. Recently, my most recent book review was The Shallows by Nicholas Carr, and I mentioned that he published a book this year, and I've been on this journey where I think I may start reading books that are published the year of, just so I can get with the times. Most of my books that I get are from different time periods or they're from a few years back, but I never read books that come out the year that I would be doing the review. So I ended up buying his book, Super Bloom: How Technologies of Connection Tear Us Apart. I just started reading it, and it's kind of captivating me right now. It's almost like a continuation of The Shallows. Another book that I recently got, I was in a section about Russia because now I'm trying to read about countries that I don't know much about, and one way that I guess find a connection is if I don't know about a country or their history, I try to find the Black history component of that country. And lo and behold, what did I find in the section on Russia? The Stolen Prince, Ganabal, adopted son of Peter the Great, great-grandfather of Alexander Pushkin, and Europe's first Black intellectual, by Hugh Barnes. I'm like, what? I also found another book in the section about Russia, or I don't know if it was Russia or somewhere else, but it was called The Black Count. And it was either about Alexander Dumas or something. So that was very interesting. And of course, I'm still reading Limitless, the expanded edition. I'm I'm on page 86 right now. But now that I've been disconnected from the internet and all of that, I feel like I can absorb more of what I am reading, and basically get on the pathway of what this author was talking about. So, before I get into my book review, let me share with you a little bit about the author. I'm going to read the back of this book, his bio, and then I'm going to share with you what some of the people online have said about him. So it says, Tis Mal Crow of Cherokee and Hitchiti descent has been working with tribal elders since adulthood, studying the medicinal uses of plants and traditional native root doctoring techniques. The information he shares in this book was passed down to him by elders as it had been passed down to them and their ancestors for thousands of years. A root doctor and herbalist, Tis Mal Crow has been teaching herbal classes and workshops for over 20 years. He works with other indigenous healers and herbal groups internationally to promote the medicinal uses of herbs and is working for the conservation of the wild habitat needed to sustain the growth of medicinal herbs. Now, this guy was also an artist. I've seen some of the art that he made, and it was really good. It was traditional art. It consisted of beadery and some of the things, I guess, that were from his tribe. When I went online to see if he had a website, I couldn't find any website. He actually passed away, I think, in 2006. So I was trying to find at least some substantial biography that was more recent than the book. And I ended up on this forum where people were talking about his background. When I was reading the book, I was like, well, what is his background exactly? Even though it said there, he mentioned some other name. One person was calling him a fraud. Then somebody that actually knew him wrote, I studied with Tis Mal for 2 years. Hold on, when was this written? This was written in 2015. I studied with Tis Mal for 2 years and produced his recordings, many of which have yet to become public, and he lived with my partner and I for a year, and we became very close in that time. I accompanied him to Sweden. I knew him well enough to know he was a bit of a loose cannon and a bit of a tortured soul. He passed away several years ago. I have no doubt that he didn't always tell the truth about things, and he was not always an easy person to be around. He was also a very, very gifted healer and had an encyclopedic photographic knowledge of many, many plants, and was an absolutely phenomenal bead artist. He was also of mixed native and European ancestry. That made his life a hard one, with these spirits warring within him, as many here would know from your own experience. I understand why the work of this site is important, but there are also aspects of things that I see posted about my friend that look a bit like a witch hunt to me and only tell a distant part of the story. In all honesty and in defense of a passed on, troubled and gifted friend, Peter. So, I mean, really, sometimes you'll have a person that will have a body of work, or they'll create something, or they'll share knowledge, and they're not perfect. We just have to not put people on a pedestal. Like, some people will exaggerate about different things. Other people will just create their own story about something, or I don't know. But don't think it takes away from his work. Even if the background is kind of smoke and mirrors, I guess. Some of the things that he said, they really resonated with me when I read this book. Yeah, there were so many different parts of this book where I wondered, okay, so one example that he used was he would describe an herb and then he would say, oh, this is bear medicine or this is fox medicine. Now, I've heard those terms used before, but I didn't know why they were called that. And in the book, he described how the natives or the indigenous people would observe the animals and what the animals would use it for. So he answered a lot of the questions that I've had for a very long time. And he doesn't have a lot of herbs, but a lot of the herbs I've used before. The complete list of the herbs that he has in this book are sweet leaf, which is wild bergamot, bloodroot, false Solomon seal, echinacea, Solomon seal, which is, different from false Solomon seal, calamus sassafras, St. John's wort, sweet fern, tansy, tulip, poplar, violet, wintergreen, yarrow, birch, boneset, bull thistle, catnip, cattail, cherry, dandelion, and field horsetail / scoring rush. The book also has illustrations in it. I'm trying to see who illustrated this. Hold up. I'm sorry. I'm gonna find the illustrator. Hold on 1 second. I should have found this before. Cover design, additional illustrations by Chris Sewell. So there are illustrations in here like this is the author. Different plants. I really liked it. It was artsy. I even like the cover. The cover is very pretty. I wonder if this is St. John's wort, but don't quote me on that. So in the introduction, he explains about his people and their medicine. He said the type of medicine described in this book is practiced by the Eastern woodland root doctors. Early Europeans called them conjurers and jugglers. Hollywood gave them the hokey name medicine men, and later in the 20th century the term shaman began to appear. In fact, each culture has their own name for a practitioner, and in the eastern woodlands the name is often root doctor. That is how I refer to what I do. I like that he started off the introduction with that because sometimes I'll think a group will be called a name, and that's a completely incorrect name. Now I don't know what to call anybody. That's why when I'm talking about a group and you hear me say several names, it's number one, it's because I don't want to offend anybody. And number two, I actually don't know their actual name because I was not there during the time of their ancient peoples. So, I don't know. I'm just trying to be respectful. But shaman is something that I've heard before. I didn't know that shaman was offensive. So, I guess I'll just use the term root doctor with him. The same could be applied to like people that practice hoodoo. I've heard the term conjurer, witch doctor, all of that used for blacks and enslaved blacks that practice herbal medicine. So that resonated with me. Our medicine way teaches the interconnectedness of all things, and it celebrates and respects all living things. It teaches us to harvest plants with respect by taking only what we need. It teaches us to give back and to live in balance with nature. He said, before European contact, most of the information in this book was known to the common person, but after many years of genocide and forced assimilation, the people had to hide this knowledge underground. It was kept alive by select people and families whose job it was to protect and preserve the information and to train new practitioners so that the knowledge would survive. And he talks about how the children were taken to reservations or forced into schools and forced not to speak their language. So a lot of the information was lost, not just with this group, but also many groups that were colonized. Like people lost the wisdom and the information that was passed down orally from generation to generation. It just, within 2 or 3 generations, it almost disappeared completely. He also talks about nothing invites a more heated debate than the ideas of sharing what is considered sacred information, such as religious ceremonies, or sharing information about the medicine ways. I have often been criticized for teaching non-natives about the medicinal use of plants. My response has always been that I was taught to use these plants on sick people, not red people or white people. God gave these plants to all people, and I firmly believe that we need to share this knowledge of plants as medicine in order to save the plants. I'm glad he mentioned this in his book because there's so many people that I meet that are into herbal studies, and I'll hear them say, oh, this herb is only for this particular group of people. This herb is only for that particular group of people. Now, some things in life are for particular groups of people. Like if it's a cultural tradition or something, it's like, okay, that's that specific group. Or if it's something related to, like, let's say like a woman's body, like that's specifically to a woman. But then there's other things in life where it's free game for all. I mentioned this in one of my other book reviews, Living in the Lap of the Goddess, where it talks about feminist spirituality. And one of the things that bothered me was how it was not all-inclusive. Like you're talking about a goddess, which is vast. It goes through many cultures. She'll look different. She'll have different forms. I feel the same way about herbs. I don't think there are herbs that are specific to one specific type of people. I feel that your body, according to homeopathy, wherever your illness occurred in the geographical location is usually the cure. So your body may adapt to certain environments. Or if you go through, let's say, use the doshas, like in Ayurvedic medicine, everybody has their own unique constitution. The herb for this body may not be the herb for that body. And you may have somebody that's white or black or Asian or something, and they'll be the same dosha and react in the same way. But then you might have 2 black people that'll react in a different way. Like that's just how it goes. It's just going to depend on the person. Also, when he talks about another book I want to refer to is Of Water and the Spirit by Malidoma Patrice Somé. He had to go through an entire initiation to join back with his people. And one of the issues that he faced as well was, do I share the knowledge of my people with outsiders? I don't know. I guess it's all on a case by case basis. Like sometimes you will need to share information if it is a vital time, if it's about to save the earth. I really think it's just a case by case basis. Sometimes you will have to give information to whoever is going to utilize that information the best, and sometimes that person may not look like you. Sometimes the person that looks like you will be the one that destroys everything. So you really have to look at people's hearts and their mindset. You have to observe them on a case by case basis when it comes to certain things, if that makes any sense. Okay, that was my rant. I'm sorry. Okay. If we save the plants, we save ourselves. I think it would be a tragedy to keep this knowledge in secret, because when a plant becomes extinct, then the medicine is lost and the secret becomes useless. This push to extinction is already happening with ginseng, golden seal, echinacea, and now black cohosh. Each has been discovered by consumers, exploited by commercialization as fad herbs to the point where they are facing extinction in the wild. Our willingness to open up and release more of what has been secret knowledge may help people realize that there are many alternatives to these popular herbs, and that often the alternatives are better suited to specific symptoms. This is when I tell you, if I had a nickel, if I had a freaking penny for every time I have to tell somebody that there are alternatives to different herbs, I would be rich, richer than a Rockefeller, okay? Because people they do get obsessed with one particular herb, as if there are no other herbs in the world. It's almost like dating, okay? Like, you'll be like, hey, this person didn't work out. Are you gonna stop dating? Are you gonna just give up? There's a whole ocean of fish. There's always a bus coming down. So the same as with herbs. I met this dude recently. It wasn't a date or anything. I was just talking to him. And he had a cold, or he was like, he couldn't breathe, he had a cough, and he's like, I need mullein. I can't find it anywhere. I'm like, there's other herbs you can use besides mullein. And he's like, no, mullein, that's the best. That's the best herb. I'm like, there is no best herb. There is no best herb. There's only the herb that is right for your body in particular. The herb that is best for her might be the herb that is worse for you. There is no best herb. If there was a best herb, there would only be that herb in existence. Why would there be millions and millions and millions of all these herbs if there was a best? I said there's so many things you can use. You could use agrimony. You could use eucalyptus, peppermint, lungwort, holy basil, lemon balm. You could use astragalus. And he's like, no, I need the best. And they say that mullein is the best. So now you see what will happen. Just imagine that There's mullein growing around, I don't know, and people are just grabbing that. Now you've over-harvested mullein. If you think that can't happen, look at what happened to golden seal. Golden seal used to be abundant, and then they over-harvested it. Now it's expensive. Expensive. Very expensive. I'm sure the same might have happened with helichrysum, but I don't know if helichrysum is the way it's harvested or the way it's made into an essential oil is what's causing it to be so pricey. I don't know. Frankincense, myrrh, we just go wild sometimes because we'll get excited about something and not take our time or look at our options. So we have to be mindful when it comes to the earth and the herbs that she's giving us. If that was the best herb, then only that herb would grow in your particular area. But I think people get caught up on the best because unless you lived on a trade route or had a merchant come to you, or you were royalty and you had exposure to all of these different herbs, or you were traveling on the 7 seas, you usually only dealt with the herb in your area. And of course, for your particular area, you would consider that the best herb, the best that healed everything. It's all about perspective, you know? We got to keep our options open and not panic if we can't find that particular thing. But you know who does it? I'll tell you who does this. TikTok. The bane of my existence. I'm not, no offense if you use TikTok, but I'm just saying. TikTok. Count your days. Count your days. The bane of my existence. Like, you don't even give people the full information. You just go ham and be like, ah! And now people are freaking out. You just, no, this is the only thing. This is the only. And then they'll just buy. Well, what if that's not the best for you? You have to think about it. I'm sorry. I know this sounds like a rant. This is just something I rant about every day. I'm sorry. Because people will literally come to me about like herbs. And I'm like, do you realize how many options that you have? Do you know how much is out there that you have yet to even discover that could probably work better than that other one, even though there is no best? So he mentions black cohosh. He said black cohosh is a prime example of this overuse and abuse. It has been discovered by drug and herb companies and is being sold commercially as a cure-all for menopausal symptoms. In fact, black cohosh should be used with caution because it can cause menstrual flooding in some women, and if taken incorrectly, can actually cause severe cramping in the abdomen and the legs and the back. It can also lower the blood pressure and cause nausea. It should never be used by women who are pregnant or lactating, or if you are already anemic or have low blood pressure. I am one example of black cohosh. I only use that for emergencies. If I'm late or something and I'm like, where are you? I'll use black cohosh, but sparingly, because that whole blood pressure thing, I didn't even realize that that's what it was doing. I just know whenever I was taking it, my heart would feel so strange. So I was like, what is going on? And I just felt very uncomfortable. But the first people that told me about black cohosh lowering blood pressure was at STL Herbs and Aromatics. Yeah, because I like getting tinctures from them a lot. But they They were the ones that told me. And I said, oh, that makes so much sense. That makes so much sense. I knew kind of the dangers of it, especially if like you were using it to induce your labor. It could, in some cases, it could actually harm the baby. But yeah, that's just one herb that is put on blast and everybody needs it, and it's a very powerful herb. It does do what it says. It does work. But for some people like me, it'll mess up your blood pressure, cause your heart to act strange. He said, in some cases, black cohosh is a very good herb, but in my classes, I discuss over 15 plants that address the specific symptoms of menopause, PMS, hormone imbalances, and other problems related to menses, motherwort for hot flashes, nettles for high in minerals, seaweed and boneset for osteoporosis, skullcap motherwort, wood betony, all muscle relaxers, red clover, soy, phytoestrogens. I can't take skullcap that much because it'll make me really tired, and if I take too much, I have nightmares. That's just me personally, but it's good if I want to go to sleep. So he says black cohosh is being taken from the wild at a rate of 300,000 plants per week. Now, mind you, this book was written, it was 2001, so it might be more. That is 15.6 million plants per year. Yeah, so if you're going to get an herb, just really do your research about it. And if you can't find it, just find the alternatives and research the pros and cons of the alternatives too. How long you can take it, all of those different things. What this book did a good job of doing was he put not only the doctrine of signatures of the herbs, but also the warnings and what it could do to your body. Some herbal books don't do that. And I have a lot of herbal books. Like some of them will actually downplay the warning of the herb. I only know the warnings of some of the herbs because I've heard first accounts from people. Like the most first accounts of an herb that I've heard of from people was yohimbe, and they all described it as making their heart feel strange or causing heart palpitations. So just be mindful of any herb that you're about to try. If it interacts with your medication, even look at your vitamins. Like if you take a vitamin blend, look at the herbal components and research those that are listed. It might be tedious, but I've seen people, for example, there was this girl that had bought some vitamins and her cycle started. But that's because it had Dong Quai in it. And it was just one ingredient in an herbal blend. So just make sure if you're going to start with herbs, just start with one. Because in this book he describes the herbs, they'll talk to each other, they'll interact with each other. It's chemistry. He says, some words of caution. This book is not a medical guide. Well, that's good. You can save yourself. Warnings, drug interactions. Medicinal herbs should be taken with the same precautions as prescription medications. Overdoses of echinacea can cause permanent liver damage. Golden seal can kill you or unalive you if you are taking some prescription heart medicines or blood thinners. Golden seal, when taken in large doses, can unalive you. There is an underground myth that taking golden seal will make you test clean on a test. This is false. No, that's, according to him. I've seen golden seal used in formulas for people that are trying to like cure themselves of STDs and different things. I've seen that in a lot. Some basic science: when you take an herb, you are taking a chemical compound. If you use heat, making a tea, or alcohol, making a tincture, or digestive juices, eating or drinking, you begin to break down the plant and release the chemicals. Some of these chemicals can join or combine into new chemicals. In your body, these chemicals break down again and release energy. They can either release good energy or bad energy. Good energy is healing powers, bad energy is side effects. Then he also mentions like how you choose an herbal practitioner, and this is the first time I've heard this method of choosing an herbal practitioner. He says each indigenous culture has their own form of healing, and then you have broad categories like Western herbalism, Chinese herbalism, or homeopathy. Investigate the options. He mentioned somewhere in here that you don't want someone you know to do it. I don't really yeah, I don't know. But he says investigate your options and then investigate the person. How long have they been practicing, and how did they learn what they know? Do they really know what they're talking about, or are they reciting from an herb company's sales brochures? Do they ask questions about your condition and your medical history, or do they offer to sell you a pill based on one or two of the symptoms that you mentioned? I will tell people I don't know. Actually, personally, in my personal opinion, I don't think a lot of people are qualified to call themselves herbalists. Because number one, there's no licensing for herbal medicine in the United States. Number one. Number two, if I threw half of these people out in the woods, would they be able to identify the plant? Would they know how to harvest the plant? Would they know which part of the plant to harvest? I don't know. I don't know. And that is scary. When some people will come up to me and be like, hey, I can't tell you. I can only tell you what you should not do. I can only tell you who not to trust and how not to get scammed and to do your research. You know, people will be all on social media. They'll be having all these crazy platforms. They'll be trying to get you, force you into particular diets and stuff. Like, even though that diet may not be the best for you, it might be good for somebody else, but not for you. And they'll talk a good game, but you don't know these people. You don't know their lifestyle. I know. I worked for one. Probably scamming people again. Like, obsessed. This man was obsessed with particular diet that probably didn't fit everyone. That probably was good for a short term, but not a long term. So when you are looking for people, you have to just take everything they say with a grain of salt. If you can't throw this person out in the woods and they recognize the plants, I wouldn't trust them. Honestly. If they don't ask about your condition, if they don't keep an open mind, if they don't even have the humility to say, I don't know, and they just let their ego get in the way, because some people, when they get into their level, they'll be like putting themselves on a pedestal to like a godlike position, and that's just crazy. That's just insane. It's like a cult. It is literally a cult. So please be careful if you're looking for something, and do your own research at your own risk, please. Don't get scammed out of your money. Don't spend astronomical amounts of money with something that probably wouldn't even cost that much. I'm trying to save you your money, and I'm trying to save you your life. I say this from my heart. No, I am not a licensed herbalist, because there's no such. Anyway, he talks about buying herbs and all of that. He also mentions the taboos, harvesting herbs and making herbs from making medicines from herbs should be approached as you would a sacred ceremony. The plant should be considered the vessel chosen by the Creator. You should never drink alcohol or be under the influence of narcotics when you are dealing with the plants and making medicines. You should be in a good state of mind. Don't use profanity and leave any anger or bad feelings behind. Now, he also mentions like leaving an offering, how you pick the plants, because plants grow in family groups. He said when you spot a plant that you are seeking, stop and take a good look around you. In a family patch, you will find new small plants that are babies, the medium-sized parents. If you only find 1 or 2 plants and there's no variety of sizes, you move on to the next. So it's essentially like if you're going to pick a plant, you pick a little bit from each group, but never pick the large one. Like, you don't want to pick like the big one. You could pick the little sprouts around it, but not all of them. Because just imagine that's the grandfather plant. And according to him, these older plants teach the newer ones how to be a plant like that, which makes sense to me. And also giving an offering. The first time that I ever saw somebody ask permission from a plant to pick it was years ago when I was watching this documentary on Ayurvedic medicine. And the man was like, thank you for your sacrifice or something like that. I need you for, I guess it was like his mentor or the guru's medicine. So he was gathering it for somebody else that was going to make the formula. And he left an offering, he said a prayer, all of those different things. And that's the first time I saw somebody actually do something with herbs like that. Another thing with the taboos, he talks about women in their monthly cycle. They shouldn't gather plants or make medicines while they are menstruating. And this is just something I come across in so many different belief systems about women in their cycle. Like, women shouldn't cook when they're on their cycle. They can't do this. They can't do that. They can't touch that. And even in Abrahamic religions, you can't do this. You can't do that. You're unclean. The only thing that makes sense to me is the ones that are saying the woman is extremely powerful when she's during that time, so it can affect a lot of things. That's the only thing I can think of, because she is going through a cycle. She is going through a cleansing process. She's probably hyper psychic. I don't know. But according to him, like, you cannot harvest it because it'll make the medicines go bad, even if it's handled or prepared. Oh, so, but I don't know. But I can understand about the profanity, the anger, yes, because you don't want that energy on your plants. He speaks about barking trees, moon phases, the hunting and gathering laws. Know the laws of your area before you gather any herbs. And then there's a chapter on making medicines, which I will not go into because it is too long, the different forms. Now, the herbs. Some of the herbs I'll go through and others I will not because I just want to make this an hour. And you have 15 minutes. First herb is sweet leaf, wild bergamot. And these are the names, the scientific names. Monarda fistulosa, and it's also known as bee balm and Oswego tea. Monarda didima? I don't know. Sweet leaf is one of the Muskogee 7 sacred medicines. As with other sacred plants that we will discuss, it seems to be almost a panacea or cure-all because it will fix many problems. The Muskogee people called wild bergamot sweet leaf or Indian perfume. In this text, sweet leaf is used to refer to the purple-flowered wild bergamot. A related species known as bee balm, Monarda didima, has a red or pink bloom and can be used interchangeably, but it is not the preferred plant. So with each herb, he has a doctrine of signatures, which is how his people would recognize the plant. Like they would look at the plant, they'd see what color it was, if it had tubes, if it had flowers, all these different things. He says the Latin name of wild bergamot is Monarda fistulosa. Fistulosa refers to the little tubes or fistulas in the flower. The doctrine of signatures tells us that this plant has to do with the diseases of the tubes, but here it is more specific to the ear. Another signature of the plant is the color purple. Things that are colored purple have to do with nerves, passion, the heart, or human spirit. In this case, it tells us that it is a nerve tonic. They use it for lung infection, tuberculosis, and bird sickness. I don't know what bird sickness is. He says that bird sickness is a lung infection caused from living near roosting birds. And it can also cause a false positive test result for tuberculosis. The essence of the plant is that it's used to draw out fire. Burns and heat and fevers or infections are its specialty. It also is for skin rashes, dermatitis, stings, or bites. But one thing that really stood out was corpse sickness or death depression. Sweet leaf is also crushed and inhaled for corpse sickness. This condition includes all types of depression caused from being around dead things or smelling putrid animals or plant flesh. Even from working in your compost, preparing meat, or cleaning those things that look like science projects out of the refrigerator. The vapors will sanitize the inside of your sinuses and get rid of the corpse smell. You can also use it for severed or damaged nerves. And there's this recipe he has in here. It's mixed with sassafras, I think, for a severed or damaged nerve. And it's sweet leaf isn't in there. It's birch leaves, ginseng root, and sassafras. He also talks about it being used on third-degree burns, and it goes into too much detail to go into right now, but it does a lot for the skin. It's a very long chapter with a lot of illustrations. I'm going to try to go through most of the herbs and tell you what stood out to me. So bloodroot. Should not be used by pregnant women, men, women on hormone therapy, or people taking chemo. and it should be diluted 10 times in the mother tincture. But for menopause and other female hormonal issues, he says that they used to use it as a paint and put it on, I guess, meridians or acupressure points on the skin. So you could put it in the part of your hair, your fingers, around the eyes, and a big dot on the back of the neck. Which I'm like, what? And they would use it as paint and dye. He also describes what you could mix in to make a particular color dye. And also how you can use some of the herbs for magic. Like, as a charm, you can use it for a love potion. You just have to carry it in your pocket or around your neck. And in the old days, it was used as a love potion by rubbing it on the palm of the left hand. Then whatever palm they touched next, the person would fall in love with them. Guess I'll have to use that on someone. Let's see. Echinacea. That's very popular. It's used as an antiviral. It's used for drawing out bites, stings, abscesses, itching. Now, well, that was a short chapter. But what's the doctrine of signatures? Yeah, he says it's the most overprescribed plant. It must be used with more caution. In most cases, it should not be used for more than 7 days in a row. For chronically ill patients, it can be used for 14 days. For persistent problems, take it for 7 days and go off of it for 3 days. I guess because he said it can hurt the liver if you take it too much. Let's see. Which plant do I really love? I love horsetail. But he scared me with this horsetail. He had an illustration that has horsetail and then scoring rush. And he talks about how high in silica horsetail is. He said, horsetail plants are 85% silica. Do not eat these at any time. Any teas or tinctures need to be strained twice through a fine filter like a coffee filter. Do not use the tea or tincture for more than 1 week in any form. Ingesting something with this high a silica content would be like eating broken glass. It would tear up your insides and could lead to death. And I'm just like, well, dang, I've been taking horsetail powder just like, what? Guess I won't do that anymore. And he says that the doctrine of signatures, this high silica content and hard outer skin makes it good for fingernails, toenails, and hair. The hollow tube stalks show that it is good for problems with the tubes, including bronchial, kidney, bladder, and urinary tract tubes. It is used for urinary tract infections. It's also used as a hair and nail strengthener. That is true. Because I remember the first time I took horsetail years ago, and my hair got so thick, and I was like, what the heck? What's going on? And my nails are growing. I actually just cut my nails. They were getting very long. You know why they were getting long? Because of these crazy vitamins. I don't know, Eldermune by Zoo. For some reason, every time I take these vitamins, my nails grow. And it just has zinc and vitamin C and elderberry. So maybe it's the collagen from the vitamin C and the elderberry. I don't know. And maybe because I'm taking them consistently and they taste so tasty. Like candy. Oh my god, I almost have 5 more minutes. Okay. Sassafras. What else? What other one do I like? I like yarrow. Yarrow X. on the blood by increasing the blood flow and speeding up the clotting process. So, yeah. It is also very high in potassium, which in large doses can cause headaches, giddiness, and heart problems in pregnant women and her unborn fetus. It should never be taken by pregnant women, hemophiliacs, people taking blood thinners, or have heart problems, or people taking other potassium supplements. I need to read more about potassium because one day I met two people. Actually, they met each other, which is crazy. They both had potassium issues. One had too high potassium and the other had too low potassium. It was crazy. And I don't remember which one it was, but one of them almost passed out. So I need to start reading about potassium because this stuff is serious. So yeah, if you're pregnant, if you're on blood thinners or any of that, or you had trouble with like things clotting, blood clotting, avoid yarrow. And it will also induce sweating. It encourages better circulation in your veins and capillaries. The leaves of the yarrow plant are so finely dissected that they look like many tiny leaves on one stalk. So it's also known as a wound healer. The white flowers are in flat clusters and show us that they are used for bones, teeth, and connective tissues. It's also used as an eye compress. It's used as electrolytes with a 50% mixture of sage tea, acne, jaundice. I also want to try Bone Set. I actually have not tried Bone Set as of yet, but he talks about that Bone Set can affect the whole skeletal system, and if you wanted to send it to a particular place, you would add a little bit of lobelia, and the lobelia will direct it to where it needs to go. So I think that I should start taking some Bone Set. When taking Bone Set, you should stay away from dairy products, caffeine, refined sugars. Milk, cheese, eggs, butter are okay. It helps with skeletons, bones, and breaks. For skeletal problems, it is best used in a tea form or the dry herb taken in capsule form. When taken alone, it will recalcify the entire skeletal system and keep bones strong. It should be taken with food. For fractures or bones, broken bones, you can have a pinch of lobelia and it'll send it to that particular spot. I'm just like, he said, do not mix pleurisy root and golden seal with this because it can cause severe dehydration and possible death. When I was reading this book, I was actually kind of overwhelmed because there were so many nuances. There were so many things I did not know, and I got scared of almost every single herb I've already been taking. But if I had to rate this book, I would give it a 5 fudge buckets. Because this man literally shocked me. I did not know this tiny book that's only 140 pages would be so jam-packed with information. I felt like I went to class. He said a lot in there. He said a mouthful, and I listened to every word. So that is all I have to say for now. I hope that you all have a wonderful time. Stay healthy. Don't get scammed. Make sure you get a book on botany, like learn about these herbs before you take them, because you are important and I don't want anything to happen to you. So make sure that if you're going to start with herbs, just take one herb at a time. Make sure you know what you're taking. So, talk to you all later, everyone. Have a nice night.